Decoding TV used to be called Decoding Westworld, and so Westworld is a core part of the heritage of this podcast.
And in many ways is responsible for my journey to you and I getting to know each other and doing things, because one of the my first encounter with you was not through me knowing you or a colleague or listening to a podcast, but was my wife becoming obsessed with Westworld and downloading your podcast, and then
Absolutely.
being startled when I did become sort of like friendly with you online. Just like I've met like so many luminaries in the video game world, sometimes some actors. One of the most impressed that my wife has ever been was, oh no, David Chen started following me on Twitter.
Well, she was we had a chance to hang out this past summer, all of us, me and your family, and she really kept her cool, man.
She did.
She didn't like fangirl out on me or anything like that, so good for her. Anyway, there's a headline at the Hollywood Reporter: Evan Rachel Wood still doesn't know Westworld ending after cancellation. It keeps me up at night. All right, now to talk about the story, I'm going to have to spoil the end of Westworld season 4. Season 4 of Westworld ended on kind of a cliffhanger, I would say. Now, I would argue that it actually was just fine as an ending. Like, yes, it sets up the possibility of future things, but if you ended the show there, which they did, it would have been completely fine. But that is not the line that the creators of the show, nor Evan Rachel Wood, the star of the show, Westworld, have taken, right? They have said, we had more of this story planned, and apparently it was quite specific. So here's what happens at the end, right? In the season 4 finale, I'm reading from the Hollywood Reporter story, humanity and most sentient life essentially ends after a season that saw the park android seizing control, flipping the power scales to control humans the way hosts once were. After a series of moves that saw virtually the entire main cast die, Evan Rachel Wood's character Dolores, the original park's oldest continuous host and its first to achieve self-awareness, is left with the chance to give humanity one final shot. A few may escape death for a few months, maybe even years, but ultimately their kind will go extinct, she says in a sweeping finale monologue. They will only live as long as the last creature who remembers them, and that creature is me. The show teased one go around the loop based on Dolores' vision for a new world. So, end quote. Anyway, that's kind of what happens at the end. I mean, that doesn't even... I did a recap show about the season, and even I am still trying to figure out what happened at the end of the season. But like, that's why I'm reading directly from this. I don't want to mess up, I don't want to mess up what actually happened.
Let someone else make the mistake instead of me, David Chen.
Absolutely. Like, and I do want to say that I had a lot of problems with Westworld, particularly seasons 2 and 3. But I actually really appreciated season 4 as a way of them trying to kind of like reboot the entire, like start from scratch, reboot the entire thing, try something different. And I admire, that boldness. But at the end of the season, they're theoretically going to restart the whole park again. You see like Teddy again, and it's like we're gonna restart the whole thing. I'm gonna give humanity a chance to survive, but we don't see what happens. Now, my interpretation could be like, oh, it's remarking like the show could end right here because it's a remark on the cyclicality of certain religion. There's some religions that's like God has created and destroyed the universe multiple times, and it's like there's like a lot of religious undertones, but there's also like there's a cyclicality to like technology and human life and whatever, and that's a nice place to end it. Is that like we're going back to the park, we're restarting it again, and it's like, oh, all right, that's, if you want to end there, that's completely fine. But according to the story, Evan Rachel Wood tells the Hollywood Reporter that the abruptness of the cancellation was tough for both the cast and the audience due to the nature of how Nolan and Joy reveal a story. She says, quote, "It was devastating in a lot of ways because, first of all, they don't tell us where the show's going. We're always just told we know how the show ends when we started. They weren't writing as we went along. They had an idea, and we were all just on a bed of nails waiting to see and hear what the conclusion of this was, what it all meant. We didn't get to have that. And so after building an arc and a character for almost 10 years and not getting the payoff at the end to see where it was all going, I think for us in the audience, it was awful in a lot of ways. I asked the creators after we got canceled, can you please just tell me how you're going to end? And they wouldn't tell me. I think because I don't know, maybe somehow, some way, in some iteration, we'll get to finish it. But I still don't know. It does still keep me up at night, end quote. Patrick Klepek, what was your initial reaction to this? You watched the first 3 seasons of Westworld. Like, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I fell off, I think, probably where a lot of people did, and would ultimately, like, yes, I am responsible for the cancellation of Westworld
Yes,
in a
it's on you.
larger, more aggregate sense, which is, yeah, season 3 did very little for me, and then by the time season 4 rolled around, it was like, again, my wife was the one that kind of got us like really into the show, and was really deep diving into it, and so like, do you want to watch this? And when she said no, I was like, all right, I guess we're off the train, which is odd because I have a real hang up with not getting closure on media that I watch to a degree that is irresponsible, a waste of time. But often when I start a movie or a show, I want to finish it. There's something about closing that loop for me that is important to the way that I interface with media. In many ways, my children coming along have saved me to that from some degree, because you just run out of time to indulge in your bad habits. But why would someone watch all of Prison Break and the 2 directed DVD sequel movies that came out later? Well, I got to see how it ends, David. I'm sorry, but like, he's got the tattoos on and he's escaping. Where is he going to escape from next? But what's interesting about this specifically is I was a little surprised, because HBO is one of those places that values their relationships with creatives, even when shows kind of go off the rails or are headed towards a more traditional cancellation, and they'll give them some sort of creative out, a shortened season,
Right,
a movie, a way of saying like, look, this didn't work out commercially. The money, the numbers don't add up anymore, but we value working with you. And here's a way to bring this plane, to land this plane in a different way if you choose to. And who knows what was offered, what wasn't offered. Certainly the abruptness that Rachel Wood gets into in the piece was definitely the tone of how the creatives and the actors talked about this cancellation when it happened. It wasn't amicably with HBO, we've decided to go our separate ways. There definitely felt like there was some bad blood at the end of this. And I do wonder, this came at the same time that who knows how much of this is HBO, how much of this is Max, and the Warner Brothers of it all. But Westworld, correct me if I'm wrong, was one of those shows that was then transplanted from the sacred catalog of we exist on HBO to what they call FAST, right? Like, which are like ad-supported kind of television networks where you just sort of feed this content machine, ads go around it. And Westworld was one of the shows that was brought to that. And maybe there is this idea that, hey, if Westworld is exposed to a large enough audience on different platforms where you're not necessarily paying to get into the mix, maybe there is an opportunity down the line where there then becomes, and I think actually this will tie into a separate conversation we have about True Detective. Can you build Westworld nostalgia where you could then justify getting the gang back together to finish off that ending? And I have to suppose that's sort of the running theory here, on how the only way this show could ever meaningfully come back.
Yes, beautifully said as usual. Kind of a long shot, Patrick Klepek. Kind of a Hail Mary. I think a Hail Mary story.
I think Evan Rachel Wood is just, look, once that Fallout show takes off, that show looks pretty good, and it's gonna be a big success. Just let her know the fucking ending. Like, come on, man. Just put it in get on Signal, end-to-end encryption. Like, do what you got to do. But like, she clearly seems like there's a lot of distraught in this article.
It's painful. It's painful. I mean, let's say a few. First of all, that's one possibility, Patrick. Another possibility, I'm just going to throw this out there. Okay, is they don't know how they're going to end it, so that's why they're not telling her. Right? Like, let's just acknowledge that as the elephant in the room. Right? Like, that's possible. Okay, let's start with the fact that Evan Rachel Wood was incredible in Westworld.
Yes,
like, she was the best part of the show, in my opinion. The work that she did, particularly in season 1, to pretend to be a robot, like, it's amazing. The blend of CG and acting that made that a convincing trick, movie trick, movie magic, is just really amazing. So she deserves all the praise and also all the answers that one should get in this situation. I mean, I cannot imagine working on a story as an actor for 10 years, helping to craft a character for 10 years, putting your heart and soul, your career into something for 10 years. And then your coworker's just like, sorry, I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end. Right. Like that would drive me really up the wall. Now that said, there is a dramatic function of not telling an actor what happens, right? Like often if you tell an actor, hey, you're going to die in episode 7, right? That can shape their whole performance for the whole season of they play everything with the kind of funereal dread or, anticipation that you might not otherwise have. I understand that. I understand why that's the case. And obviously in the case of the creators of Westworld, I also understand why they don't want the secrets to get out. But this behavior just seems unforgivable to me, I have to say. Like, as you said, really, you're not going to trust Evan Rachel Wood not to divulge the secret of the Westworld? Like, in the extremely, I'm going to say less than 1% chance that this show ever gets to air again?
Yeah.
I just think that's cruel. I'm just going to say I think it's cruel, and tell Evan Rachel Wood the ending of Westworld.
Like, look, just
hashtag tell Evan Rachel Wood the ending of Westworld. That's what we're gonna have to launch today.
They need to settle with reality and know that the only way Westworld's ending is getting told is one of these other sad versions that stories that don't, like TV shows or movies that don't get to do their ending and they get a graphic novel to wrap it up. That's where Westworld gets to tell its ending. You can get a graphic novel. HBO will let you do a graphic novel to tell the final season. Yeah. And once you do that, can we please just tell her? Like, I guess I'm not super shocked given the creative, like the storytelling that was happening in Westworld season 1 and 2, the relationship that those creators had with places like Reddit and people unpacking. There is a certain mystery box, like early J.J. Abrams quality to what was happening in Westworld that I wonder if that is just intrinsically part of these two's creative process, and say they sort of draw the line at sharing an ending that might never actually get told, even with an actor who was central to the success of this show. The mysteries of Westworld early on were on its face intriguing, but I don't think you need a good salesperson, and she was the salesperson. Like, she made that world click along with a lot of other really talented actors, but I think for the kind of high stakes, high concept of Westworld to feel so grounded and dramatic, for as goofy as a premise as it is, go watch the original film. Like, that's her. That's all her. So I think yeah, justice for Evan here. Like let's get her the ending. Like, what do we have to do?
Stop Fallout from airing on Prime Video until,
this might be her way of doing it. It's just like publicly shaming them in the press in the hopes that, like, we didn't realize you felt that so strongly about it. Maybe we'll get a follow-up whenever her next film or whenever her next round of press, we can pound the table on that again.
This interview was given to the Hollywood Reporter because she is going to be playing Audrey in the off-Broadway production of Little Shop of Horrors. So like that, it wasn't like she went to the Hollywood Reporter and said, I got a bone to pick with,
I got a story to pitch you on.
Yeah. But I think it's just, they probably asked her like, hey, how'd you feel about the show not ending? And she probably gave that quote.
Had thoughts.
Yeah, she had thoughts.
Appreciate the honesty.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.